Lisa Carlson. I'm the Chief Exec of Canterbury's Business Improvement District. Welcome to this webinar today. It's really nice to be able to engage with all of you in this way, in the only way we really can at the moment. We run a series of free training sessions, typically throughout from January to June, but there are a few other sessions throughout the rest of the year. And since lockdown, we have converted these to webinars and also added new sessions. So we've done some on legal, HR, business rates, financial support through this crisis. We've done a session with Digital Beans on your local delivery, also with Produced in Kent on the Help Kent Buy Local initiative. And we've now got this session today on digital marketing and how we can all stay in touch with our audiences through this time. And also just some top tips on how to do that. And so joining us to deliver that today is Pip Philippios, who's the Managing Director of Digital Beans, and also Ben Pierce, who's the Relationship Manager of Digital Beans. And we just want to say, we know this is a hugely challenging time for everyone, and we want to do everything we can to support you through that and to help you get the financial support you need. But we also know that there are some really heartwarming stories out there about what you're doing to help local businesses, how you're adapting, how you're working to support the local community, and to keep your business alive in new and creative ways. And it's amazing to hear those stories. And we want to help you share those stories and to help you keep connected to your customers and your clients. So I'm just going to hand over to Rachel, who will talk us through briefly how this webinar is going to work, and then we'll hand over to Ben and then Pip.
Thanks, Lisa. Hello, everybody. I'm hoping the majority of you have used Zoom before, but if not, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a brief introduction. You'll see at the bottom of your screen probably 3 buttons. You've already checked out the wave button, so thank you very much for waving at us. You'll see there is a chat section and a Q&A. Now, I suspect there's going to be a lot of questions for Pip and Ben as we go along. And if you do have any questions, please put them into the Q&A section at the bottom. It means that all of us, all the attendees can see what you're asking, and then either Ben or Pip will be able to respond to those questions. If you have a message that you privately want to send to the panelists, that is the chat function, and we'll be keeping an eye on that. If you have any technical questions or just something that you want a private answer to, then just put that in the chat box. You are all on, you don't have audio or visual, so at the moment we can't see you and we can't hear you. If you have a technical question and either Pip or Ben say, actually, we need a bit more information from you in order to answer that question, we can unmute you. So at some point we will be able to give you some audio if you have a very in-depth technical question for Pip or Ben. But in the meantime, you're on silence, we can't see you, so if you're in your pajamas, I'm sure they're lovely, and lovely to have you here at such an early time in the morning. And now I'm going to pass you over to Ben.
Cheers, Rachel, and thank you to Lisa as well. Thank you to the whole BID team for having us and for helping us not just put on this webinar today, but also for helping us with your local delivery. And I just wanted to use the start of this webinar to sort of give everyone an update on your local delivery. So just where we are now compared to where we might have been during the last webinar. So we've been taking on a lot of feedback, and we're always looking for ways to develop the platform to further help businesses. So that's going to be hopefully something that we can move on and tell you more about how we're going to do that in the next couple of weeks. Also, we've had more stores sign up, which is amazing. I think we're on 23 stores now, which is great. And the majority of those businesses are using their stores and taking income, which is absolutely perfect. I think Pip will echo my words here. When we set this up, it sounds slightly cliche, but as long as we were helping one business, the whole platform was worth it. And we've been lucky not just to help businesses, but also work alongside Canterbury City Council, the BID team, Produced in Kent, with the Help Kent Buy Local campaign, and many other different well-known resources and people within our local community who are really trying to help local businesses during their time in need. And I think on that point, I want to say thank you to anyone out there who's attending right now, who's helped us spread the message about your local delivery, because just by you telling one person, you're giving a business a chance to sell their products online when they might not have the opportunity to do so. So thank you for that. And I think what I would say is also a massive thank you to a new partner who we've taken on in the past week in Westgate Communications, who are going to be handling all our press and PR. And this morning, they're going to be sending out a brand new press release with a couple of success stories in as well to local publications, local journalists, local media outlets, and also national business press. So we're really, really pleased to have Westgate involved and using their resources to try and spread the message, not just here in Kent, but slightly further afield as well, to businesses who right now during these times could do with a platform to help them sell their products when they're offering a personalized delivery service. So yeah, any more information, go to your local delivery. Thank you guys so much. The only thing that I want to say before I hand over to Pip is as part of this, what we're going to do is we're going to offer some free sessions for you to be able to talk to us one-on-one. If you'd like to make the most of that at any time during this conversation, like Rachel said, if you go to the chat section, it says to, and it says all panelists, and it's got an arrow. You can select which panelist you want to send a message to. Feel free to select my name or Pip's name and send us over your email address, and we'll save your email address and be in touch to book something in for you. So on that note, Pip woke up extra early this morning. He couldn't sleep. He was so excited to be delivering this webinar today. He's going to feel slightly starstruck talking to so many people, I bet. So I'm going to hand over to Pip now to make the most of digital marketing and to present the webinar to you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, this is a bit weird. I was definitely a bit kind of apprehensive of doing this in real life, but I don't know how I feel about doing it on Zoom. I think having more people's faces to look at and kind of gauge some sort of reaction feels a bit more natural and a bit more I don't know, reassuring. This is a bit I feel like I'm kind of going a bit mad and possibly feel like I'm talking to myself. So kind of Rachel and Ben and Lisa maybe do some nods, and then I'll feel a bit yeah, like I feel like I'm not talking to myself. And also I am in the junk room full of kids' toys as well, so just apologies for that. You can put backgrounds on this, can't you? So maybe I should have done one of that. Yeah, no, thanks. And also just carrying on from what Ben said there, we've now got someone selling beer in Warwickshire, I think. So yeah, so we've definitely gone now outside of Kent, and someone's actually selling there as well. So that's good. Yeah, good, big success for your local delivery there. Right, so let's jump onto this. So let me share my screen.
Whilst you're doing that, Pip, let me just say, if any of you guys have got questions, as mentioned, the Q&A button's there. What I'll do is I'll keep an eye on it for you, and at the end we'll take the questions and I'll ask them for you. Is that all right?
Yeah,
there
we
sounds
go.
Good. We've got a screen.
Oh, perfect. Right. One thing that may be worthwhile is anyone that wants to at the end of this, I'm going to be going through a couple of bits on Google Analytics. So if that is a question or something you want to look at between now and the next however long, just as long as you logged into Analytics, then you can follow what I'm doing as well. So just kind of a heads up there. All right, let's move that out of the way. So a little bit about me. So you probably obviously seen the emails and stuff like that. So I'm being introduced as the managing director of digitalbeans, but as well as being kind of started digitalbeans around 10 years ago, I've also helped found a couple of e-commerce brands. So the most notable, together with my wife, we have launched Simply Hair about 7-8 years ago, which is an e-commerce site, and it's a brand of hair extensions that we supply to trade and salons that is been grown exclusively online. And yeah, so kind of my experience with digital, it hasn't just been on a client-facing side, but we've also very much involved. So our offices are together. We're above a warehouse, so I kind of know the kind of day-to-day operations from an e-commerce point of view, and can really feel the digital impact that we have in terms of what that really means for a business, and the problems that often come with that. So we've worked, so over the last 10 years, obviously you can imagine, like, we've worked with people kind of up and down the country, internationally, one-man bands, huge charities, educational charities, and kind of everything in between. So whether it's growing a B2B or a retail business, we've done it. We've been part of that. So I kind of our approach to digital marketing and how we work with clients is very much results based. So instead of kind of jumping in and looking at a specific service that sometimes clients are asking for, we kind of step back with them and look at the business and go, right, well, actually, what are you trying to change here? What's the needle you're trying to move? And then from there, put together a strategy, which may be what the client was asking for in the first place, but 80% of the time it probably isn't. And we put together a strategy for that. So whether that is more short-term results versus long-term kind of investment into the business, the level of expenditure that they're looking to spend, and kind of from there just put the strategy together that works for them and that they're comfortable with. As Ben said, obviously we launched Your Local Delivery as well a few weeks ago. So from that, we've built the site and all hands on deck to kind of help that grow to where it is now. And we've got some quite exciting things in the pipeline for that. So hopefully some more things to share in the coming weeks. Okay, so what do we do? And I want to just cover off kind of what we do as Digital Beans, but also what a digital marketing agency is and isn't. So the obvious ones, a digital marketing agency and Digital Beans, we do SEO, so search engine optimization. So whether that is technical SEO, so we have experience working from small sites with maybe 5 or 6 pages on, all the way through to e-commerce sites with upwards of 100,000 products on, and kind of the technical issues that arise with that. PPC across, so that's pay-per-click, so doing ads across the likes of Google, Bing, and the social networks as well. So whether that's LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and the rest. So we've got all of those kind of bits. Then, like I said a minute ago, a big part of this, and the bit that I mentioned earlier about Google Analytics, is we really focus on KPIs. And in fact, all agencies should be, even though perhaps sometimes they're not, and sometimes they can lose focus. So ultimately what we care about and what we ultimately are trying to achieve is a lower cost per conversion. So whatever that conversion is, so whether that's a sale, a lead, or even a store visit, which you can now do, is all about getting that cost for that conversion down over time. So that's what we care about. We don't care about necessarily the expense, the outgoings, as in like the pounds and pence, because ultimately what you're trying to do as a business is buy more business profitably. So that's something I'm going to be touching on and going through a bit later on, and kind of getting Google Analytics to help us out with that. As a good agency, you should be working, if you are working with an agency, as literally should feel like an extension to your business. So if it's not, then again, at times we don't have that, and those are always the more challenging relationships, and the relationships that perhaps don't end that well or aren't that long. So we definitely want to be integrating ourselves with their team, with a client's team, and literally be almost in daily communication and just feel like an extension, like we're just kind of sitting on the other side of the desk with them. What we don't do, and what perhaps you shouldn't be looking at agencies to provide you with. So this is more for Digital Beans. So we don't look after people's or companies' social media accounts, so we don't post on their behalf. Now, that is something that I have conversations about probably weekly, I would say, more or less, about why we don't. And the reason for that is simply because measuring the success of that and measuring the real impact, the tangible impact of that. So not just, the the impressions or the clicks or the click-through rates that came through that activity. But the real impact, what drove store visits, what drove a sale or something like that is near on impossible to prove. And we feel, and I've always felt more comfortable as an agency being able to run services that we can tangibly say, well, we are bringing you a cost per sale of X. For every pound you're spending. So it's one thing we don't do. There's people out there that do that. I will be talking about my thoughts and the kind of a setup for that a bit later on. Again, over the years, I've had loads of kind of weird and wonderful conversations. Maybe I'll remember some and anecdotally throw them in as I go along. But we're not here, and agencies aren't here to become your financial advisors. And they certainly aren't there to turn a business around in a matter of a couple of weeks. So kind of the miracles of digital kind of aren't necessarily there. And they're not there to kind of create and develop your brand. It's not a kind of, right, well, if I work with an agency, they'll be able to help me with everything. Now, what we can do is use tools to help drive those decisions. And we love working with clients when they're possibly looking at and they're tossing up between a couple of different products or services. And we can use things like keyword research and look at demand online for the different ones and get them to decide on the products and the direction perhaps they're looking to make, but we ultimately can't make that decision for them. We don't know what the competitive landscape is locally to them. They know that industry far better than we ever will. They'll know what is more profitable. So with all of those kind of caveats and explanations, let's sort of jump in. So the approach we're taking today is just kind of keeping it simple and busting some myths around digital marketing. So these are things that I often hear. I try and avoid kind of putting my face into my palms when I hear these things, and Ben often will nudge me if it looks like I might be trying to do that. So these are things that I'll often be confronted with, and certainly have been a lot over the years. So myth number one, so this is kind of one that personally frustrates me, is when companies are told or they get the belief that being on social media, or any network, so Facebook, Twitter, helps with their SEO. So essentially helps them rank better on Google. So that's absolutely false. And I've seen, and one of the reasons this particular gets me going is because I've seen plenty of cases with small businesses running an account on every platform. So they could be having 4 or 5 accounts, and they're talking to me and saying, I don't know how people do this. I'm struggling to run my own business. I'm just running my social media accounts. I don't know what I'm posting, instead of them actually focusing on their business. And it's often because they've read something or been to some sort of social media training course, and they throw around that it helps with SEO. So they think it's a quick win. And before they know it, they're just kind of like tweeting and Instagramming and Facebooking and doing all of this, often to no avail. So one of the kind of reasons for that, so for starters, Google, and obviously we've got to think about this from a business point of view as well, Google is never going to turn around just commercially and say, yeah, we use all of Facebook's data to rank your website, because it's just going to cause Facebook's market share to Facebook's stock price to just skyrocket, right? So they're not going to be making any sort of announcements like that. Now, of course, they do see what's going on there, and I'm sure somewhere in their algorithm they look to see what's trending. Well, they do. So they know what's trending and what's got traction. However, what they don't do is go, oh, well, there's Digital Beans, let's get them right to the top because they're on every social network going, and they seem like they're posting. So it's far better to be focusing your attention on one social network and doing it really well. So pick the one that your customers are on. So the ones where you're getting feedback, getting reviews on, people are looking for you. Often different industries have different communities. Sometimes that's Pinterest, right? So especially if you're kind of in the wedding space and that kind of thing, maybe Pinterest is the best one to be on. Other times, if it's more visual, then Instagram and LinkedIn, if it's more B2B. So it's far better to just pick one and absolutely own that that channel, and also be, if you're managing it yourself, to also be excited by it, to not feel that it's a chore. You need to be able to portray the business and the brand in the best possible light. So trying to cut corners, trying to do anything like that is often not very helpful. One thing that comes up quite often is about paying an outsider freelancer to help run your social media accounts. Now, I kind of have mixed feelings on this, and it isn't something I would prescribe one way or another to everyone. But in a nutshell, no one is going to know your business as well as you are. So straight away, there's going to be a delay in the communication. So for example, if you've got offers coming up, if you've got any other announcements, you're going to have to make that information available to whoever's managing your account. So straight away, you're taking the time to tell them about it anyway, which could have gone into you managing your own account instead, and cutting out the middle person. But also, often with these services, they're priced in a way that is X number of pounds for X number of posts a week. And when you turn social media and kind of make it so binary, to say like, right, 2 posts a week or 3 posts a week, you sort of lose focus of what that social network is actually all about. Because some weeks you might need to post 100 times, and actually another week you might only need to post once. So becoming, and again, there's different people offering these services, and all sorts of different qualities and costs as well. But making it so binary, often you can lose sight of what actually matters, and that's the engagement and getting customers to see your products and getting them to engage with it. So that's one of the kind of my fears of when people step into this as well. Going into this, you're going to have to manage your own expectations as to what you're going to be getting back, because if you're getting someone to manage 3 networks because you think it's good for your SEO, and then you're unable to track it, and all you're getting is, we got X number of clicks, X number of impressions, in my opinion, it's probably better places to spend that money that's more trackable, whether that's online or offline. Again, don't forget, an impression simply means on most channels your post just appeared on someone's screen, and then they could have just been scrolling past it. So an impression is more or less irrelevant. So yeah, so in a nutshell, social media doesn't help your SEO, and I have mixed feelings in that. Now, having said that, I don't want it to be all doom and gloom, because I feel like my lack of sleep is possibly making this a little bit doom and gloomy. But I do have a coffee here that was going to perk me up, and I've got it in my favorite Starbucks cup as well. So to kind of flip that on his head, for example, my wife's brand Simply Hair does really well on Instagram, right? So we've got like 25,000 followers. However, the majority of them are super relevant, right? So they're either customers or people in the industry, and kind of peripheral around the industry that are following us and we're getting engagement with. So it's actually been really good. So it's been actually as a direct result of our customers and through Instagram and the team's work internally that look after that, we've been able to get things like be sponsors on things like Dancing on Ice and Strictly Come Dancing and those kind of things. So, and that's been as a direct result of our customers, but also how social media was used as well. So social media isn't just about getting the money through the door like today. It can be used for kind of PR and longer term strategies as well. So yeah, I do like social media, but it just needs to be approached with caution depending on how you're approaching it. Myth number 2, SEO is the most important channel. So I don't know why, but over the years it feels that SEO has really risen in popularity, and it certainly last year I would say it was a huge buzzword. So everyone was talking about SEO this and SEO that, and has my site got SEO, or is this SEO'd? And I feel like again it was small businesses often losing sight of what matters. So SEO actually is important, but it's no more or less important than perhaps other channels. And what we need to do is step back and look at, right, what are you trying to achieve? Because SEO is definitely not a short-term strategy. So it's not something that you can throw some money out or some time at and then see results tomorrow. So it's a much longer approach that you need to take. So often when I'm talking to small businesses, they're saying, oh, I need my SEO to be good. Whatever that means. And you need to be careful about how you think about it and how it fits into the mix. So the kind of things you can be considering if you're thinking or looking about SEO, or if SEO is being done for you at the moment, really what we're talking about here is content and discoverability. So essentially you having good content on your website that can be found. So within that, what we're talking about, if we dig deeper, is a site that's well optimized for crawlers. So Google's machines and Google's bots to be able to get around your site, find new content, not get stuck in any kind of weird loops and technical code kind of anomalies within your site. And then we're talking about having unique, decent content that's relevant to your users and to your customers, and what they're looking for. Now, sometimes the alignment of this can be off. So we've seen sites and have worked with sites in the past where they'd spent a lot of time investing in their content in-house. So a great example I can think of was essentially a home renovations. It was a basement type company. And they put a lot of effort into their content around damp issues in and around the house, and how they happen and everything else to go with that. And their traffic for a small business was pretty decent. They had like 20,000 sessions a month as a result of a lot of these articles. However, they were only able to service pretty much West Kent, and that's it. So again, from a traffic point of view, it was amazing, that definitely worked. But most of it, like over 99% of it, never had a chance to convert into any kind of any work for them, because they were just simply outside of their area. So you can actually have good SEO, but it's actually no good for the business, right? So again, something to consider. And like I said, it's definitely a long-term play. So yeah. SEO isn't always necessarily the most important, and it's one of those areas where you can throw quite a bit of money at, depending on the size of your site and how much content you need and the issues on your site. So it's always worth thinking about and seeing about what are you trying to achieve, right? Take a step back. What needle are we trying to move here? And then we can think about whether SEO or not is important. I like this one. So a lot of small businesses, especially retail businesses, if they've got a website, they feel like they don't need to update it. A friend of a friend, probably a friend's son at some point, made them a website. And because they're a retail business, they don't feel that it's relevant to them to keep updated or to keep investing in it, which is, I think, and especially what's going on at the moment in these times, actually completely wrong, right? So if you've got a website, and obviously, if you're however successful you are in your business, in your bricks and mortar store, then a website actually allows you to become even more successful and leverage your current success offline, and turn it into much more engaged customers, increase the rate of referrals. So some of the things that you could be looking at implementing and investing in your site is looking at things like building up an email list. So I'll go into shops and they'll often say, oh, do you want to join the email list for 10% off, which is not kind of it's not a great pre-qualifier, right? So me going into a shop and making a one purchase doesn't mean I want to join your email list for 10% off today. And if I do that, it's just going to be taking advantage of the offer that I was just given, and I'm just going to unsubscribe as soon as I get the first probably spam email. Whereas if you've got a website that you're encouraging your customers to visit, right? So you could have a more traditional loyalty type card that encourages people to go back to your website. You could be being more proactive on social media. You could be running ads. You could be doing 101 things, right, to get people over to your website. And then on your website, you can be encouraging people to sign up for your email list. Now, when they do that, you can actually also maybe ask them a couple of questions before they do that. So they go in and they're not necessarily pre-qualified, but you've got some of their personal preferences or some of the demographics. You can find out if they're male or female. You can find out what type of pet they've got, or whatever, right? So depending on your business, and you don't make the list, the questions too many, but you can then all of a sudden in something like MailChimp, which is free to start with, start collecting email addresses plus some data around those people that have signed up, not because they just got 10% off the last time they were in your shop. But that then allows you to start sending personalized emails, right? And that's what is super important when talking about email marketing. So the industry and we should be moving away from bulk emails. So to have a list of 1,000 or 10,000 people and send them all an email blast and saying, right, well, I've done my email marketing, off it goes. What we need to be doing and what we need to be looking at is getting to nearly a one-to-one. That's kind of the holy grail, getting to a one-to-one level of communication based on people's preferences and the data we have on them. So again, if you're able to get, whether they're male or female, you can start sending them some offers. I was having a conversation last week with a client, and they're segmenting the email list by gender and age. So that then they're going to be offering slightly different offers, different times of the week. Kind of younger people, the offers are more of the kind of weekend going out type stuff. And the older demographic, slightly different wording and different days. So, and the same with gender. So that's kind of the level you want to be getting to, because it's just going to increase your open rate. It's going to increase the people that take up the offer, people that share the offer. So, or if we are talking about offers, of course. So investing in the site, investing in a basic email marketing system like MailChimp is going to work wonders. Obviously, it's not going to do miracles overnight, because you need to build your list, you need to harness that list, and kind of just kind of mature it. The other opportunity you get with having a website and actually investing in it is by integrating a remarketing pixel or Facebook pixel. Maybe just to see also who's awake, can we just have hands up if you, let's say, do know what a Facebook pixel is, or have at least heard of it? So how many have we got? Okay, so a couple of you. All right, so a Facebook pixel or a remarketing pixel is a bit of code that you can copy and paste. They're given to you by channels like Facebook, LinkedIn have one, Twitter has one. Essentially, it's a free bit of code, a bit like your Google Analytics code that you can throw into your website. And what that does is behind the scenes, it's sending data about your visitor back to that social network, right? So let's say Facebook. Facebook then in turn tries to match that person that's on your website with one of their users across Facebook or Instagram. And typically in our experience, we're talking of around somewhere between a 60 and 85% match rate. So that means out of 100 people, let's say 80 of them will be identified as a Facebook user, which you can then run ads to on that platform, right? So you'll be able to run ads to people that have been on your website. And that's how things like, if you're shopping around on Amazon or any other shop and you don't check out with your basket, and then that product is seemingly following you everywhere you go, that's how that's done, right? So it's using a remarketing pixel. So by having a site, you can integrate these things. It doesn't cost you to have that. And in fact, if you've got a site, I encourage everyone to have a pixel on there, so that as and when you're in a position or want to spend money on ads, you're ready to go. You've got that pixel there. It's got the data in there, because you can't apply this retrospectively. You can't put a pixel on there today and expect it to match up everyone that's been on your website before today. So you have to have it on there to be collecting the data. And just to move that out of my way. And obviously the other thing is as well is, and this is one of our big kind of pushes with your local delivery, is obviously, we're all, cooped up in our houses, and we are scrambling to get products and find products and get them delivered. But I strongly believe that actually once COVID is over, I think this is going to be a new expectation that we're going to have as consumers. Certainly speaking from my point of view, I'm going to still expect our local farm shop to do delivery. I'm still going to expect to be able to call up and do click and collect. So I think, this is going to go on long enough, and people are gaining the benefits. We've got 2 young children. It makes it far easier to be able to get the farm shop to come to us than us to go to the farm shop with the toddlers. There's going to be the vulnerable, the elderly. So all of these people are going to be benefiting from this. And I also think a lot of these businesses, certainly from my experience with your local delivery, even though it's only, a few dozen businesses on there, they're seeing a difference. They're getting dozens of orders a day. That's making a difference to them. So I don't think they're also going to be looking to change their model. And in fact, I've always been a big advocate of essentially having tech that big companies have, and it's almost like an unfair advantage over small businesses. For example, Argos have had click and collect for God knows how long, right? And it's pretty much how everyone now shops at Argos. I remember being a teenager, and it'd be like you wouldn't be able to get a book to look through to get your products and to find the product you wanted before you go and buy it. Now you go into Argos and no one's at the books. Like everyone just goes there and just does their click and collect, right? So I being able to empower small businesses to be able to offer those technologies is kind of one of the things that drove our decision to do your local delivery. And like I said, if you haven't got a website, then you're just kind of missing out on some of these behavioral changes that I think are going to be happening following COVID.
Yeah. Pip, sorry, there's just a quick question here about the Pixel.
Okay, yeah. Let's jump into that now.
It's just that Mary Jane is asking about whether there is an Instagram Pixel.
Yeah, so Instagram's owned by Facebook, and the whole thing just runs through Facebook ads. So by using the Facebook Pixel, it covers both platforms. So so no, it hasn't got a separate one. Right, myth number 4. So yeah, this is kind of linked to what I've just been talking about. So a lot of retail businesses, even some kind of B2Bs I've spoken to, because they're not selling online, because they don't have a transactional nature online, they feel that ads for them are pointless because they've got nothing to sell online. Why would they want to spend money online on ads to get people to their website? So obviously, it all comes back to actually having a website. So without a site, you're not going to be able to, and a half decent site that works on mobile and it's fast and it portrays you in the best possible light, and maybe wasn't built 10 years ago by your cousin's friend or something. So by having those, you can actually then start playing online and start running ads. Now, the beauty of this, and I'll get onto this towards the end when we're talking about Google Analytics, but there's so many ads that you can run, right? So if we're talking about a retail business, and I know we've touched on this before with Ben and Rachel, that if you're a retail business, one of the most amazing types of ads you can now run that's available on Facebook and Instagram is you can run a Facebook ad with the goal to be store visits, and Facebook, using its scary technology, will be able to report back to you as to how many people visited your store following engaging with one of your ads, right? So straight away, even though you're not selling online, and like I was saying earlier about getting a cost per sale or a cost per lead, you can actually start to generate a cost per visit into your store, right? So it's immensely powerful. And so not selling online should definitely not be a reason to not run ads, because again, even if we then go back to the remarketing that I was talking about earlier through the pixels, you can then, so these are people that have already engaged with the brand, maybe have bought something from your shop, being able to then run an ad. Let's say you can go back like a year, so you can say, right, anyone that's visited my site in the last year, I want to run an ad to them. So if you do that, you can start running Valentine's campaigns to everyone that's been on your website for the last year, because they know, like, and trust you, hopefully. So therefore, when you say, right, I've got this offer this Valentine's, or this is what we're doing, you're kind of building up that excitement. Again, Christmas, summer, all sorts of different times of the year where you can sporadically turn on ads for like a couple of weeks, and then you can turn them back off. But that data's there, so the remarketing data's there, and you can set them up with all sorts of goals. So you can have website visits, but like I said, you can also upload your product catalog. And this is kind of, if you want to be a bit braver and kind of really go for it, you can upload your product catalog or the most popular items, essentially in a Google sheet or an Excel file. Put your picture in there, a product name, the price, and that kind of stuff. And actually, you can have your products appear on Facebook. They're not shoppable, but you can still use that and have a very e-commerce feel to your ad, and you can run that to literally anyone.
Sorry, but can I interrupt you with another question?
Yeah.
So this is from Sarah Wren, who's the manager of Oscar and Bentley's, which is an excellent restaurant on Guildhall Street. And
I've been there. Is literally, I don't know if they still do it, but best sticky toffee pudding.
There we go.
Ever.
So Sarah's question, this is to go back to the Pixel. So I'm doing a new website on Wix. So I'm more in control and can update more often. How can I put Insta and Facebook Pixel into the Wix website? Because she's not sure what you mean about copy.
Okay, fine. Yeah, copy from where? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty. I'm personally not a huge fan of Wix, but it is a straightforward, simple platform to get going on. I am fairly confident, like 99% sure, that they have an area for you to paste your Pixel ID in, and they will do the rest. So you literally have to get your code. How you get your Pixel ID is by going into Facebook ads, or Facebook Business Manager if you've got a Facebook Business Manager. But Facebook ads if you've never run ads before. And somewhere around that screen, it'll say about creating a pixel. And it's literally like, I think last time I checked, I think it was like a 3-step process. Like, give your pixel a name, call it whatever, your website you're going to be putting it on, and then it gives you a big block of code that you can literally copy and paste that entirety. And then if you go to Wix or your other content management system, if you're using someone else, you'll be able to paste it in often. But some platforms, I'm pretty sure Wix is one of them, literally just need you to paste in just your ID, the ID of the pixel, which Facebook will also tell you, and it's just a number, so you don't even have to copy the ugly code that's there. You literally just copy that, put it in there, and then if you go back to Facebook, there's a button that you can use straight away that says validate my pixel, and it'll check that you've done it correctly and that it's working, and then you're good to go.
I'm wondering if Ben kindly mentioned earlier you're offering a sort of a one-to-one session with businesses.
Oh yeah, we can jump on a call.
Help Sarah afterwards.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks very much, Pip. I'll just mute myself again.
I think we've got another one as well. We're doing the same with Buttercup. Where's it gone? Let's have a look. Can you see that, Rachel, as well? In Harbour Street, using Wix. Yes. Really. Oh, okay, yeah. So Mary's just saying really pleased with it. So we'll look for that. Cool. Good stuff.
Pip, quickly before you move on, there's been a question in the chat as well. Paul Clark, whilst we're talking about Pixel, says, please can I ask, for a local service business creating a Facebook lookalike audience, what percentage of match is best to use? I think in Facebook, the match ratio ranges from 1 to 10.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so so we've got a bit of a pro in the room. So talking about lookalike audiences. So a lookalike audience for just to kind of catch everyone up. So once you've got a pixel installed on your site, and let's talk about Facebook because this is what the question is collecting all of that data. It's also able to get, apart from everyone visiting your site, if you've got any conversion, so for example, even like a contact form, if you're not selling online, it's able to get that data and know who's done what on your site. You can then use that, or you can segment it, and you can create a lookalike audience. So what that does is Facebook's stupidly powerful AI goes off and finds you new people that look like the people that have been on your website or done something on your website. So if you're selling online, you can go off to Facebook and say, right, I want you to find people that look like people that buy from my shop, but haven't been to my website. And is it Paul, did you say? Ben, yeah. So Paul's question was what percentage, and because Facebook has a setting to say, right, do I want a 1% lookalike or 10%? In a nutshell, without kind of going too deeply in this, but we can jump on a call if you want privately. But I would split test it. So depending on how big of an audience it is and how long you've been getting data through the pixel for, because the more data going through the pixel, the more accurate the lookalike audience will be. And then I would suggest segmenting it further based on demographic data. But I would split test it with 1%, 3%, and 5%. But it all depends on how big the audience is getting at that sort of size. I hope that answers the question. Cool. Myth, have we done this one? No, yeah. Myth 5. So start talking about conversions and kind of edging our way towards Google Analytics, like I was saying earlier. So a lot of businesses think or act as though traffic, and actually other metrics as well, equals conversions, right? So, and this is kind of one of my gripes when I was talking earlier about social media management, is they portray vanity metrics such as impressions and even clicks as a conversion, right? So they'll do a big song and dance about it and say, right, our post's got X number of impressions and X number of clicks, as if that's a conversion. But even taking that a step further, into something a bit more tangible like traffic to your website, that isn't a conversion, right? So if anyone here, like, give me £1 million to send them 1 million people to their website, we can do that. It's very easy to kind of fake traffic or get low quality traffic. So traffic actually isn't a conversion. It's nothing like that. And especially even, let's say a good site is converting, depending on different campaigns, at like 5%. That still means 95% of your traffic is lost, right? You're not even converting, and that's if you're able to convert at 5%, let's say. So we need to move away from feeling or thinking and seeing these kind of more vanity metrics as conversions. We need to get as close as possible to conversions being essentially money in the bank. So if you sell online, that's super easy to do, and you can actually, track a spend, an email campaign or whatever, right the way through to an actual order number. If you're not selling online, we want to get as close as possible to money going through the business. So that may be measuring a contact form submission, or like I was saying earlier, if you're running a Facebook ad, a store visit. So as close as possible, we need to be moving away from that quite easily and without kind of too much tech or involving a developer. You should, depending on the site setup, should be able to track contact form submissions, and I'll set some up after in a couple of minutes time straight away on screen, so you guys can have a look at that. You can also track calls to your phone number if it's done through a mobile. So if they do a click to call or a click to email, if your email's on their website, then you'll be able to track that as well as a goal and get it reported in Google Analytics. So I guess because it's on here as well, one thing I want to kind of slightly off tangent, but bounce rates. One question, I haven't seen it yet. I hope I haven't seen it yet, but yeah, I haven't seen it yet, is that, what's a good bounce rate, which is yeah, again, one of those questions that is a bit frustrating because people for some reason obsess on over this term, the bounce rate, and think that a high bounce rate is bad or a low bounce rate is good. So it all comes down to, what are we talking about here? What page on your website has it come in through a campaign? What's the purpose here? Because if we take an extreme, because most people think a high bounce rate is bad. So let's take a bounce rate of 100%. So that means 100% of the traffic 100% of the traffic going to a particular page leaves on that page without looking at any other page on your website. So when I'm describing that, most people are thinking, oh, that is bad. You want people to stay and have a look. But if we consider most contact pages, for example, on most websites, if I'm going to go and visit, whatever, I'll Google it, I'll bring up their contact page because I'm looking for their address. I'll bring up their contact page, copy the address out, stick it in Google Maps, and then I'm off it. Right? I'm not going to sit and browse the website. So my session in that example will count as 100% bounce rate. However, the website and that page fulfilled what it needed to do and what I needed to do at that moment in time. So we need to be taking bounce rate with another metric, or essentially using our intelligence to try and understand why that happened and whether or not that's actually good or bad. I think this is the last myth. So I'll often be talking to businesses, and I'll talk about, it doesn't matter, whatever, Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, or whatever platform. It doesn't even have to be ads, actually, just, being on a social network. And I'm often confronted with, oh no, it won't work for us. Our audience isn't on X. X isn't a new social media platform. It's just, whatever you want it to be. So, and most often the one that gets this kind of bias is Facebook, because it's felt as though it's full of kids. But the thing is, right, so, for starters, it's not full of kids. And the average age of a Facebook user is going up and up every year, because us older people have now push the kids off it and they're on TikTok. So it's not full of kids. The average age is going up. I think now it's like definitely mid-30s, the average age on there. And with like however many billion people are on there, I think the last record was something like, can't remember how many billion are on there now, but how many billion active users, but it was more active users are on Facebook now than there were people alive 100 years ago. So when you look at it like that, of course your audience is on Facebook. Like everyone's on Facebook or Instagram, right? But the beauty is, and because I often get confronted with this from an ad point of view, the beauty is that even if they're not on there and you're the one person that is absolutely right, your audience isn't on Facebook, but if you're running ads, then you've just got no one to run your ads to. And if you've got no one to run your ads to, it's not going to cost you any money. So it's actually like dead simple to actually prove or disprove that as to whether or not your audience is on there. So I've yet to find an example where the whole industry, no one is on there, and no customer is on there for a whole particular type of business. But yeah, if somehow they're not on there, there's plenty of other channels that you can move on to and find that out. But again, it's super easy. And if you are actually, and this is quite a nice way to use social networks, if you are looking at stepping up your social media game, or perhaps maybe you're on 4 or 5 channels, you're getting bored, you're getting fed up of managing that and splitting your time like that. Quite a straightforward way. If you're not confident as to what channel works the best, a good little hack is to run a small campaign on each channel, so a paid campaign. So maybe spend like £50 over like a week per channel. So let's say you're on 4, so spend like £200, and you can run the same type of post across all channels and just see which one gets the best engagement, right? So it's a short-term kind of like expense for you to get some real data back really quickly and say, right, okay, well, Facebook works the best or Instagram works the best. And you can measure that and then make your decision as to where you put your time organically. So you can shut down if you want, or just really scale back the other channels.
Pip, sorry, can I just
Yeah.
quickly butt in, only because Lisa just made a good point on the chat. Some people, because this was meant to last till 10, it's going to go on a bit longer. This is being recorded, but I know some people might have to dash off at 10 for whatever reason. If you do and you've got any questions right now, if you could put them in the Q&A, whether they're on audiences, social media channels, how social media works for your business, you know, any questions that you've got website related as well, if you put them in the Q&A, what we can do is we can answer them, because this is being recorded, so you'll be able to watch it back from whatever point you may potentially leave from. So please do, and obviously, as mentioned earlier on, if there's any more detail that you want to go in personally with us on anything, more than happy to jump on a call with you. Just fire your email address over to me and I'll save your email address, but please put your questions into the Q&A and we'll get to them after Pip has done his demonstration on Google Analytics.
Cool. Yeah,
Sorry,
thank you.
mate.
That's all right. We had a question here earlier as well from Sarah. How do you know when someone has visited your website in the last year? So if we're talking about Google Analytics, providing Google Analytics was on there, you'll be able to go back and see the traffic that was there. If you've got a Facebook pixel installed, if that was probably maybe what the question was relating to, as long as the Facebook pixel was on your site at the time, so therefore it was able to track that visitor at that moment in time. When you go back to Facebook ads to run an ad, you can create a look back and say, right, I want to run an ad to people that have been on my site through my pixel X number of days ago. So you can do like 7 and all the way up to like possibly more than 365. But yeah, so you don't actually know who that individual was, but these platforms do. Cool. Right. So a few final tips. I've spoken a lot about Google Analytics. We'll jump in on that in a minute. So if you do want to kind of follow at the same sort of time, let me know. Can we maybe just have some hands up to see if anyone's going to be following me sort of real time to set up a goal, so I can do a bit slower, or whether no one cares and I'll just rush it. Let's have a look. Okay, cool. All right, there's a few people. Cool. So yeah, so let's if you've got Google Analytics logged in and your main dashboard, and then we can take it from there. It may also be worthwhile you bringing up your own website at the same time, yeah, just bring up your own website at the same time, just in another tab. I think I've spoken about a few of these already. So in the interest of saving time, I will just jump in and show you. Can you still see my screen? Yeah, cool. So what we'll do is actually set up some goals for your local delivery. So we've already been talking about that. And the goals I'm interested in setting up is, if we have a look on the site. So on the site, the thing we care about is obviously people signing up, right, and registering. So this is the goal I want to track. Is I want to track how many people. I'm going to do two goals, and essentially start creating what is known as a funnel. So essentially, like so different goals that ultimately push people down all the way into converting into the most important thing to us. So the first thing we want to do is I want to track how many people look at this page I'm looking at now, which is your local delivery /register, right? It doesn't mean they've started it, but it does mean that they're potentially interested. So what I want to do is I'm just going to just copy that address of where our form is. So /register, so I'm just going to copy all of that. And then I'm going to head over to analytics. If you've just logged into analytics, you're probably on the home section, so dashboard. What you want to do is go right to the bottom left, click on admin, the little blue cog, and then you should see a screen like I've got there. Let me just make sure I've got the questions up in case anyone. Okay, cool. Ben, do you want to let me know if anyone's got any questions at any point, because I seem to have lost.
Yeah, we'll do, mate, don't worry.
Cool. So when we're here, you should have 3 tabs: account, property, and view. What we're going to do is go into your view, so the last column, and click on goals. So at the moment, I've got no goals in here, okay? And And then what I want to do is create a new goal. So once we're here, it will tell us what kind of goal is this, right? So some of this stuff is predefined and Google tries to help us with, but the kind of most straightforward thing, kind of counterintuitively, is to do a custom goal. Okay, so we'll just click on custom at the bottom there, and then press continue. And then we're going to give this a goal a name. So I'm going to call this visit register page. Okay. You don't want to make that too long because it's going to kind of mess up your reports later in analytics if you kind of give it something ridiculously long. But equally, don't just call this goal 1 or something silly, because Google will do that for us anyway. We'll leave goal slot ID as it is. And then in the case of what I'm just doing is I'm looking at the type of goal this is. This is a destination. So we care about people visiting a specific page on our website. So that's a destination. Press continue. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paste my address in there. Okay. And what you want to do is keep that equals 2 and then just drop your domain out of it. Okay, so we literally just want the page itself, and it has to start with /. So / register is what we're after. Okay. And then what we can actually do is, once you've done that, is you can click on here and click on verify this goal. So it will show you, just to make sure you haven't done something wrong, as long as you've got some traffic going through your site and some people visiting this page, it will then say to you, X% have visited this in the last 7 days. Okay, so we've got that there, and I'll save that. So now we've got our first goal. So looking back at the last 7 days, it's going to be a 0, even though people have been on the visit page like we just saw when I verified it. But because it wasn't tracking, that's a 0. So if I go in there tomorrow, that would have gone up. And then the next goal I want to do is when someone submits the registration form, and this is probably what I'd encourage most people to be tracking. So if you're looking at tracking a contact form or some sort of lead generation form on your site, a lot of them are going to be, at the end of it, will be redirecting you to a thank you page. If not, then depending on the content management system you're on and the platform, you may or may not need to get a developer to kind of change that or integrate in a slightly different way. But for the majority of forms, it probably takes you to a slightly different address. So obviously before I just had / register, but now we've got / register / thank you, right? So I'm just going to do this one slightly quicker. So I'm just going to copy the end bit of the address that we want. So / register / thank you. I'm going to go back into analytics, new goal. It's a custom goal. Call this registration success. It's now going to be have a different number, obviously, because I've already done my first one. So goal ID number 1's gone. It's a destination. It's equal to that. And then I can save my goal. So now we have 2 goals. And as of kind of like 24 hours time, that will start collecting. And then if I go to down the left-hand side, what you can do is click on conversions over here, click on goals, click on overview. Obviously right now there's nothing there, but as of, like I said, as of tomorrow, as soon as data starts coming in for these guys, we'll be able to start seeing data in here and to start seeing how many people are converting. So yeah,
Pip, we've just had a message through from David Ilford, who said, "Thanks, Pip. I've managed to set up a pixel on my site whilst you were speaking. Great stuff."
Cool.
Which is good. Obviously, there's so many amazing things that happens with a pixel when it comes to remarketing. I was just thinking, because we do a lot of work with pixels, it might be nice to sort of give a little insight, as I know a lot of the conversation has been about pixel, in terms of what different campaigns you can set up, and why we believe as well that remarketing is really going to shape the future of when it comes to businesses investing in digital spend.
Yeah, so talking about remarketing, we've been in plenty of conversations where a lot of small businesses and actually larger businesses think that is some sort of like hocus pocus technology that only massive companies like the likes of Amazon can use. But actually it's not. You can get started, you know, for like literally like a few quid a day and run a remarketing campaign, and that technology is there. And obviously like David just, you know, he's just done it while I've been yabbering away. So it's actually, you know, very, very straightforward. The benefits and some of the campaigns that we like to run. So to put it into perspective, right? So if you set up your pixel and then you set up a remarketing campaign with a bit of kind of targeting on there, you can start reaching people that haven't converted on your site before. So that means that people, what we like to do and the kind of campaigns we like to set up is people that have been on your website, spent or shown a level of interest more than kind of, you know, bounce off within a few seconds where perhaps it just wasn't going to be a right fit. There's no point spending money on those types of guys. But for the rest of your traffic, where they've been a bit more engaged but just didn't convert, we've seen huge uplifts in conversions, right? So if you're spending literally just a few pound a day on a remarketing campaign, it can really increase your conversions. And if you're spending money elsewhere, your cost per conversion, even if it's offline, your cost per conversion across the whole campaign will come down, even though you're spending more. So to give you an idea, let's say you spend like £500 a month on whatever else, let's say Google ads, and then you're going to top that up by another £3 a day. So let's call it like 90 quid a month. So your total goes up to £590. If the remarketing campaign has been set up properly and you've got a convincing ad, you should just in the increase, the exponential increase between the cold campaign you're running at £500 a month compared to the remarketing campaign of your existing audience, is going to bring your cost per acquisition or your cost per lead or whatever you're measuring down, because you're only spending the extra £90, but that is going to outperform your £500, right? So to give you an example, we've had a client, so they're a wedding venue, and we've got cold campaigns, so going out on Facebook, that's bringing in leads at about £20 to £25 for a lead, whereas a remarketing campaign is working out much more to about £5 to £6 for a lead. So, but they're not spending that much money on remarketing because they just physically can't, because you have to advertise to people that have been on your website. So unless you've got millions of people on your website, you just physically can't spend that much money. So yeah.
Also, I'm just going back to analytics. Also, I think it'd be nice to hit on the importance of, you mentioned earlier on about people who were like spending money. I think there's a really big, another myth out there. Maybe myth number 7 should be you should only have Google Analytics or AdWords installed when you're running paid for campaigns to track them. Mm-hmm. But that's not true. You should be tracking everything, shouldn't you? And it's important to do that for a number of reasons. Like you did there, the form, we'd be able to have a look at how many people hit that first page on sign up, and then went all the way through the form to the end, which is going to give us so much more valuable information, right?
Yes, right. And the main thing I would say on that actually is to not rely on third-party data exclusively, right? So Google Analytics is like the standard tool. It's free. There's no reason to not be using it. Some content management systems have their own basic version of analytics embedded, possibly even Wix. I know Shopify does, but it's not industry industry standard, right? So you're not going to be able to speak to someone like us, and we're not going to be using that data because they collect in different ways and it's very bespoke to their application. And even if you're going to run Facebook ads, even though Facebook ads has a great analytics system, obviously it's extremely biased, because the one goal they've got is to get you to spend more money on Facebook ads. And as much as I love Facebook ads, I need to be using data from elsewhere. So for example, just to give you an idea, if you're going to be just going in blind with Facebook ads, by default, unless you change this and you're running an ad, if someone converts after 7 days of viewing your ad, they didn't even click it, comment or anything else, and they convert, Facebook will take the entire credit for that conversion, right? Which is a bit unrealistic if they've just viewed an ad. And if they've clicked an ad, they'll take the credit for that entire conversion up to 28 days later of that happening. So it's things like that where, in digitalbeans, we change those settings anyway, so they're a bit more realistic. But also, we need a more unbiased platform like Google Analytics to come back to and say, right, well, how did actually this compare against Google Ads or another channel that maybe reports their conversions, their data in a slightly different way to Facebook ads?
I think at that stage, if anyone else has any more questions, don't know if you want to put your hands up to ask any questions, or if you have anything else to go in the Q&A. I think if there's no more questions, I don't know if there's any final points you want to hit on, Pip.
No, I think I'm quite good.
Have you drunk your coffee yet?
Yeah, ages ago.
We did see an uplift in the voice halfway through. It's like,
oh, there's a little bit of.
Is that a DB cup as well?
No.
Here's me with the branding on my phone, wearing the hoodie, and you've got a Starbucks cup.
I like to feel like I've gone out for the day and gone to Starbucks, but I haven't. It's a plastic cup.
By the way, if anyone doesn't know Pip, he's got his own coffee machine, his own virgin water. He is branded up when it comes to drink.
I haven't got my own coffee machine. I've actually stolen it from the office now because everyone's working from home. So I'm not going to leave that go to waste. It's at home now.
Yeah, Sarah's just asked if we can do a separate session on Google Analytics if you don't understand it. Or I think, yeah, we can look at doing something in the future with the big guys if they want to put something on for the majority. But if not, Sarah, if you want to pop your email address in the chat or in the Q&A, I'll grab your email address and we could potentially organise a call to go through a couple of bits with you. If we can help, we can help. And that goes for everyone. If you've got any outstanding questions or there's a couple of bits you want to hit on more, please feel free to put your email address in the chat or ask Rachel or Lisa and they'll fire your details over to us and we'll organise a call.
Yeah, great. In fact, we're seeing that in the chat that a session on Google Analytics would be helpful. But I also think, you know, part of why your session today was so helpful is that you keep on top of the latest trends for all of us. So even if we've done a Google Analytics session last year, we probably need it again. Because things do change so quickly. So Pip and Ben, thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
For me, just going back to what you said in the beginning, I mean, there are lots of takeaways from today, and I've been told that my concentrated face looks very serious. So apologies if I looked very serious. I was
nodding, like,
you know, concentrating, and it was really helpful. But for me, there were two areas of takeaway. One is just about that authentic communication, no matter what channel people are using. And when I look at the participants here, the ones, and I know most of you, when I think about your websites and your emails and your social media channels, it's about, well, they remind me of you and your business. So it's about that authentic communication. I think that works really well. But then the other area is just all these, you know, little tips and tricks that can make a big difference in figuring out which one of them to use. And I appreciate you doing this because I know that actually you would want to tailor your advice to a specific business and their context. And you've had to, you know, for this session, be really broad. So I know there's been some specific follow-up, and if anyone wants to contact us later to ask about what other sessions you'd find helpful, please do that. We do have two more training sessions lined up and a few more that we're working on. So one is on Tuesday, the 28th of April, on the financial climate at the moment for us as individuals, looking at pensions, savings, ISAs, things like that, and how we can all get our own houses in order, and then making the most of video content on social media. And that's Thursday, that is the 6th of May. Yep, 6th of May.
We hear the guy hosting that is all right, actually. We hear is an all right chap, don't we, Pip?
Yeah, he's all right.
Hi, Chris.
But it's been really nice to engage with all of you, even if it's, you know, only over chat and Q&A. Please do keep in touch. Also, please feed back to us if you're having any issues receiving financial aid. We're really familiar with how things are working at Canterbury City Council and in terms of business rates and the grants, but also we're aware that some of you do fall through the cracks on that, and some of the financial aid, you know, doesn't cover enough. So please give us that specific feedback, because we can feed that through to national channels, similarly with Canterbury City Council. There are also other funding streams out there, and we're trying to share all the ones that we hear about. And if you hear about any or want to share information, let us know. But But for now, just a final huge thank you to Pip and Ben and Digital Beans and all that you've been doing over the last several months to support local businesses. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very
Thanks
much.
for having us. Cheers,
No
guys.
problem. Thank you, guys.
Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.